Have you ever met someone and within minutes you thought, wow, I really like this person, and then later you wondered why? What was it about them? Was it their confidence, their looks, their intelligence? Maybe. But what if I told you that one of the biggest reasons people become likable has nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room, the funniest person in the room, or even the most confident person in the room? In fact, the psychology trick that makes people like you faster is surprisingly simple, and most people never use it because they're too busy trying to impress others. Let me explain. Think about the last time you walked into a social situation. Maybe it was a networking event. Maybe it was a meeting. Maybe it was a family gathering. Or maybe it was that awkward moment when you had to introduce yourself to someone new. What's happening inside your head? Most people are thinking things like, do I sound smart? Do they like me? What should I say next? Am I being awkward? And because they're trapped inside their own thoughts, they accidentally create distance. The funny thing is this. The more you focus on yourself, the less connected other people feel. The more you focus on them, the more connected they feel. And that's where this psychology trick begins. Years ago, I attended an event where I knew almost nobody. I remember standing there holding a drink, pretending to be interested in the decoration on the wall because it felt less awkward than approaching strangers. You know that feeling? You want to talk to people, you want to connect, but your brain suddenly becomes a full-time critic. Then I noticed someone across the room. This person wasn't the loudest. They weren't telling amazing stories. They weren't performing, yet people seemed drawn to them. Every conversation around them looked effortless. So I watched carefully, and I noticed something fascinating. Whenever someone spoke, this person became genuinely curious, not performative curiosity, real curiosity. Their eyes lit up, they asked questions, they listened, they made the other person feel interesting. And suddenly I understood something that changed the way I communicate forever. People do not like you because you impress them. People like you because of how they feel when they're around you. Let that sink in. People do not remember every word you say. They remember how you made them feel. Which brings us to the first lesson. Make people feel seen. Think about how rare that is today. Everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to tell their story. But very few people make others feel truly seen. Imagine you're talking to someone and they keep checking their phone, or they're waiting for their turn to speak, or every story you tell somehow becomes a story about them. How does that feel? Not great. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine talking to someone who is fully present, someone who notices details, someone who remembers what you said, someone who asks follow-up questions. Suddenly, you feel important. And here's the secret. When people feel important around you, they naturally like you more. Not because you're manipulating them, because you're giving them something they rarely experience. Presence. The next time you're talking to someone, challenge yourself. Listen for understanding, not for response. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, become fascinated by what they're saying now. You'll be amazed how quickly conversations change. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. There's another psychological principle at work, and this one surprises people. We often assume likable people are perfect. They're confident, smooth, charismatic, never awkward. But research and real life show something different. People trust human beings, not perfection. I learned this lesson during a presentation years ago. I was speaking in front of a large audience. Everything was going well. Then suddenly I forgot a line. Complete blank. Nothing. My brain decided to take an unexpected vacation. For a moment, panic hit. But instead of pretending nothing happened, I laughed. The audience laughed too. And something strange happened. The room felt warmer afterward. People connected with me more, not less. Why? Because they saw a human being. Not a robot, not a performer, a person. This is known as the power of vulnerability. And no, vulnerability does not mean sharing your deepest secrets with strangers. It means allowing yourself to be human. When appropriate, admit mistakes, laugh at yourself, share challenges you've overcome. Stop trying to look perfect. Because perfection creates distance. Humanity creates connection. Have you ever noticed how some people seem intimidating until they share a struggle? Suddenly, they become relatable. Suddenly, they become approachable. Suddenly, you like them more. The goal isn't to appear flawless. The goal is to be real. Now, let me share another lesson that completely transformed my relationships. Most people enter conversations asking one question, how can I be interesting? But highly likable people ask a different question, how can I make this conversation interesting? Huge difference. Imagine two musicians playing together. One musician is trying to show off. The other musician is trying to create great music. Which performance sounds better? The second one, because connection is collaborative. Conversation is the same. When you're constantly trying to prove yourself, people feel pressure. When you're trying to create a great interaction together, people feel comfortable. This means becoming generous with attention, generous with encouragement, generous with appreciation. One of the easiest ways to do this is through genuine compliments. Notice I said genuine, not fake, not exaggerated, genuine. People can sense the difference immediately. Maybe you notice someone's enthusiasm. Maybe you admire their work ethic. Maybe you appreciate their kindness. Tell them. Most people walk around carrying invisible strengths that nobody acknowledges. When you notice those strengths, you become memorable. And here's something fascinating. The compliment doesn't have to be extraordinary. It simply has to be sincere. Now, there is one more psychology trick that ties everything together, and it might be the most powerful of all. People like people who make them feel safe. Think about your favorite people, the people you enjoy being around. Why do you enjoy their company? It's not because they're constantly entertaining. It's because you can relax around them. You don't feel judged. You don't feel evaluated. You don't feel like you're walking through a minefield. You feel safe. Emotional safety is incredibly attractive. And unfortunately, many people unintentionally create the opposite. They criticize, they interrupt, they compete, they try to win every conversation. But connection is not a competition. Nobody wins when everyone feels defensive. The most likable people create an atmosphere where others can simply be themselves. Have you ever noticed how some conversations leave you energized while others leave you exhausted? The difference is often safety. When people know they won't be embarrassed, dismissed, or judged, they open up. And when people open up, relationships deepen. This doesn't mean you agree with everyone. It doesn't mean you become a people pleaser. It means you approach others with respect and curiosity. You make it easy for them to participate, easy for them to share, easy for them to connect. Now let's bring all of this together. If you want people to like you faster, stop trying to be the most impressive person in the room. Most people are running around trying to earn approval, trying to prove their value, trying to convince others they're worthy. But the people who build the strongest connections do something completely different. They make others feel seen. They allow themselves to be human. They focus on creating interesting conversations instead of trying to be interesting. And they create emotional safety. Think about how powerful that is. None of these require extraordinary talent. None require perfect confidence. None require you to change your personality. They simply require a shift in focus, away from yourself, toward connection. Because here's the truth most people discover too late. The fastest way to become more likable isn't to make people admire you. It's to make people feel understood. And when someone feels understood, something magical happens. Their guard drops. Their smile becomes genuine. Their energy changes, and suddenly a stranger starts feeling like a friend. So the next time you walk into a room, stop asking yourself, how do I make people like me? Ask a better question. How can I make people feel valued? That single question changes everything, because people may forget your jokes. They may forget your stories. They may even forget your name. But they will never forget the feeling of being genuinely seen. And in a world where everyone is desperate to be noticed, the person who notices others becomes unforgettable. That's the psychology trick. Not charm, not status, not perfection, connection, real human connection. And the beautiful part is that you can start using it today, in your next conversation, with the next person you meet. One question, one moment of curiosity, one act of presence. Sometimes the smallest shifts create the biggest transformations. And the people who become unforgettable are rarely the ones trying hardest to be liked. They're the ones helping others feel like they matter. Be that person, and you'll never have to chase connection again.